All right, so today we're going to be really focusing on how we can stop, collaborate, and learn with Smart Learning Suite Online. We'll take a walk through some examples of ways that you could use the different pacing options within Smart Learning Suite Online to encourage students to be working together, collaborating, having that classroom discussion, building upon each other's learning. We're also going to take a look at how we can use handouts and workspaces within Smart Learning Suite Online to again encourage students to be working together and to collaborate. So my name is Sarah Stork. I'm a professional development specialist with SMART. Before I joined SMART, I was an elementary education teacher, taught for 11 years, grades K to 5. And over the past year, I've been working with teachers mostly in the Philadelphia area as they're implementing SMART in their classrooms. So helping them to effectively use the technology to help students meet their learning objectives and goals, and to take it even further and to talk about how they can encourage students to collaborate during lessons and build some of those skills. All right, so our objectives for today, we're going to talk about how to leverage the teacher and student pacing during collaborative lessons, and we'll also discover new ways to encourage collaboration in the classroom using individual handouts and collaborative workspaces in Smart Learning Suite Online. All right, so to start this conversation, I'm going to ask for some feedback from you. So if you're in my class, I'll pop this out one more time. If you have gone to hellosmart.com and joined my class 12770, we're going to start an activity here. Like I said, I'm going to ask for you to give me a little bit of feedback on what does collaborative learning look like and what does it sound like in the classroom. And you can put some words and pictures on this page, except you can't yet. Right now, you're just looking at it. I'm talking about this page as a teacher. You can see the words I'm looking at, but you know, I think I need to turn this over to you. So I'm going to press the little person right here. And then I'm going to look down here, and I have two different options. Currently, it's telling me that this page is view only for my students or participants. But I really want to convert this into an interactive activity so we can have some of that feedback and start that conversation. So I'm going to click to turn this into a collaborative workspace activity. It's going to set up our class here. So I see that we have 5 people in the class. So I'm going to go ahead and actually split us into 2 teams. And now once we're split into teams, as a teacher, I do have the option to move students around in the group. So if I feel like maybe Jennifer would work better in team 2, or maybe Casey would work better in team 1, I can move those names around. I might think as a teacher about grouping students together, maybe personalities that might work better together, or maybe I want some students to work together that normally don't work together in a group, or maybe I'm thinking about having students with varying abilities work together. So as a teacher, I have that, that capability to move students around in a workspace. So I'm going to press to start this workspace, and what you're going to notice, I'll click into one team here, you're going to have some tools now on the side. So you have an inking tool where you can mark up the page. So if you click here, you have your different pens and highlighter options. You also have your eraser. But one thing that is really cool about the workspace is that if you click here, now you could add an image that maybe you have saved on your computer. You can add in a web link, or I might ask students to search for a picture that they could add onto their workspace. So I'll give you a minute or two to start looking for maybe a picture to add, adding some words. So what does collaborative learning look like in the classroom? So I'm already seeing some great ideas like organized chaos. And as a teacher, I can click here, and now I have the different workspaces to look at, so we can peek in on what Team 2 is doing, and we can see that they're adding some images. Awesome. So I see students working together. Maybe they have some devices, the computers that they're working on, but I'm seeing in those pictures where you can see that students are having that conversation, building on each other's learning. Go back and see what team 1 is doing over here. All right, students having conversations. We see collaborative learning spectrum. So, and as a teacher, I might grab my inking tool here. Let's go with the green. Say, yep, students having conversations. That's a great idea. I'm going to check that off and say, hey, that's an awesome idea. All right, we'll check in on team 2 one more time to see their thoughts. Communicating with others, having that conversation. Again, we see a picture of students talking, up and moving around, and working together. Awesome. Well, thanks so much. Oh, look at that. Not quiet, working with each other. So we want to hear those conversations while kids are working collaboratively. All right. So thank you so much for your thoughts and contributing to what does collaborative learning look like in the classroom. Because right now we're using that teacher pacing. So if I click here as a reminder right now that I'm driving the instruction right now as a teacher. So if I'm on page 4, you're on page 4. And so now we're ready to go on to our next page here. So as I click, it'll turn your page. So let's talk about that lesson pacing option in Smart Learning Suite Online. Why would I want to use these different pacing options in the classroom? So this teacher pacing, I really would like to start a lesson all together. So I'm going to facilitate that whole group discussion, launch a new lesson, have students contributing new ideas, building that background, making connections to previous learning all together and having that conversation. Then I might use teacher pacing at the end of my lesson because I want to take that time to reflect on what we learned as a whole group. Maybe to have a whole group check for understanding. And so as a teacher, then we can pull everything back together, talk about what worked today in our lesson, what maybe we should improve next time. So having that debriefing time. Student pacing is going to give my students the power then to navigate through a lesson at their own pace. They're going to be able to go from different activities, different pages. They're going to be able to learn new ideas at a pace that works best for them. And I may also provide some differentiated learning opportunities. So students can either maybe work on some review tasks, engage in some tasks where they're going to be learning new ideas, or maybe I might provide some challenge tasks for those students that are ready to extend on the learning of the task or the concept that we're working on. So right now, I'm going to click right over here again, and I am going to turn this lesson over to you. So if I click on student pacing, you'll see on your screen that there's a message that now you can navigate to any page in the lesson. So you're welcome to take a look. You have arrows in the bottom left hand of your screen. You're welcome to take a look at the rest of the lesson. You'll notice that there are some activities in here. So I might build some activities for my students to navigate through some vocabulary tasks. So maybe I want them to take some time. What words do they know well? What words do they need to learn? And then maybe we'll take a moment to have a think, pair, share activity with this. Complete your rank order and then talk to your partner. What words, maybe you have some words in common, or maybe you could teach each other a word. So having that moment to work together and help each other learn some new words, or maybe decide on some new vocabulary terms to start exploring together. And students could continue on, complete a flip out activity, learning those definitions for the words. Maybe they're going to engage in a match them up activity. So you're welcome to keep looking through the lesson. You are in the driver's seat now as the student. You're deciding which activities are going to best fit your learning for right now. If you're interested in learning more about how to create these activities, we had an awesome webinar last week on how to create activities within Smart Learning Suite Online. And in the resources that we'll share with you at the end, there'll be a link for you to watch the recording of that webinar so that you can learn how to build some of these activities and then use that student pacing with your own students. Okay. So now I'm ready as a teacher. I'm going to pull the lesson back together. So I'm going to change that lesson pacing back to teacher pacing. And again, I have a sheet here that I would want my students to engage in. So again, right now, this page is view only for you. So what I would like to do now is to turn this page into an individual handout. So it's going to be very similar to the collaborative workspace activity that we did in the beginning. However, the handout, each person will get a copy on their own device. Many times when I'm working with students, I encourage them to work together on a device. So partners could be working together on an individual handout. And you're going to see once we get this handout started, that then we can all pull back together and work on a handout or view each other's work using a smartboard. So I am going to click here to turn this page into an individual handout. And I can take a look at my teacher version of the handout. You can press start to take a look at the handout on your own screen. I would have students moving words into the boxes. They can type to explain the word in their own words, this new vocabulary term that we were working on, and then having them find a picture to represent the word. So again, I might have students working by themselves on a device, and then working then maybe in their table groups to see that are they finding similar definitions? Are they finding that they have varying understandings of a word? Do they need to work to help each other to really deepen their understanding of these new terms? And then as a teacher, I have the capability on my screen to check in with each of my students and how they're doing on their handout and check in with their work. And so we can kind of pull all back together and talk about what new ideas they're sharing or build upon each other's ideas. So I might check in on Casey and see how she's doing with her handout. And I can see that she's chosen 4 words and she's chosen a picture, and she's going to keep adding her thoughts. So in the classroom, I would pull up this handout as a teacher up on the board, up on the smart board, and I could ask students to come up to the board to add to each other's handouts. I could add my own thoughts as a teacher to each of my students' handouts, and we can build upon each other's learning that way. Check in on everyone's work here. Awesome. Collaborate, working together with some great pictures. All right. And what's nice about the handouts is going to save in the lesson for us. So if we spent today working on these new vocabulary words and we were understanding these new terms, maybe we're using these words for our upcoming unit. So as a teacher, I can come refer back to the handout and pull up each of the students' ideas and their thoughts that they've contributed. We can continue to build upon those words, use them throughout our new learning and throughout our new unit. And that way we can continue to have those discussions about our new ideas, our new thoughts, and continue to collaborate in that way. All right, so we've gone through how, as I'm delivering a lesson as a teacher, how I can change those lesson pacing options. I have that teacher pacing and the student pacing. We've also taken a look on how to create a handout and a workspace while I'm delivering a lesson. But now I'm going to take you back to my home screen as a teacher. So this will end the lesson for you. So if you're watching my screen, I'm going to press the house. and come back to my home screen as a teacher. So when I'm ready to set up a lesson in Smart Learning Suite Online, I can set up the lesson and edit my lesson and choose which pages I would want to be workspaces or handouts. So I'm going to come in and actually edit this lesson. And I can see each of my pages right here. I'm going to choose one of our pages. And then down at the bottom, I have the option to convert this page into an activity. So if I click here, and now I can choose to turn this page into that individual handout or to make it a collaborative workspace. So we could turn this page into that handout, we can preview it, and I can set up my lesson and choose which pages I would like to be handouts or workspaces before we even get started in the lesson. Or as you can see, as we were delivering the lesson, I could do that in the moment too. Okay, so I'm gonna finish editing and then we'll come back in. All right, so that'll start the lesson back for you. What I'm gonna do next is actually, I'm gonna come down to this plus sign right over here, and I'm gonna add a blank page. So again, I'm gonna kind of pull my class back together. I want us to be working together on debriefing this lesson, reflecting on the learning from today. So I've just added a blank page here, and I'm gonna turn this into a collaborative workspace because I want us to all work together. And something that we didn't try before, so we broke into teams before in our collaborative workspace, but now we're actually gonna have everybody on one team all together. So I can have a whole group working together, collaborating on one space and adding their thoughts and ideas and having those discussions. So I'm gonna have everybody on one team. And what I can do here as a teacher, I could add some text. So maybe I'm gonna ask students, what's one new idea that you learned from our lesson today? So while we've been talking today, if you wanna add some new ideas to this workspace, and then I'm gonna add some more text over here. What's a question that you have? So you have the space, and you can add to our workspace right now. We're all gonna work together on this one. What's one new idea that you have, and what's a question that you still have from today? Again, you can add text, you can find a picture to add to it, but I'll give you a few minutes to add to this space. Great, I see one idea of, you can instantly make something a handout without going to the copier. It can save you a lot of time. You can pull in a PDF worksheet or a notebook lesson that you have, turn those pages into that handout, and then you can easily refer back to it and then have students add their thoughts. And having students add to another student's handout on the smartboard, we have that flexibility to do that. Right, so you can determine who works together, how big your groups are, and which is great because you can have that flexibility to build the groups that are going to work best for that lesson. We have the student versus teacher pacing. Awesome, I love this idea of having students take a screenshot of their handout, because then you can have them save that to a digital portfolio. So either have each student could take a screenshot, or as a teacher, you could take screenshots on your computer of the students' workspaces, handouts, and just like that question says, you can keep that as a digital portfolio. So that's a great idea. All right, so we have another question. Is there a limit to the number of people that can participate in a workspace? So you can have up to 9 teams working on a workspace. So you can have students working in those groups. And then if you could always pair students up with devices too. So you definitely have enough spaces for all the students in your class. All right, well, thank you all so much for all of your ideas. Now that we've taken some time to talk about different lesson pacing and handouts and the workspaces and how we can build this collaborative learning within Smart Learning Suite Online, I have a challenge for you to choose an idea to try while you're delivering a lesson using Smart Learning Suite Online. So you can try using teacher pacing with an individual handout. Students can work together on devices, collaborating, working together that way, or you can have students come up to the board and contribute to a handout on the board. You can also try using that student pacing while you're delivering a lesson and have students working in a collaborative workspace activity. Maybe you have multiple activities in the lesson that they're working on, or pages with different information, or maybe they're out exploring different websites and then coming back and contributing to a collaborative workspace activity where they could add their new ideas and work together. And we always love to see the awesome ideas that you have and the ways that you're using SMART in your classrooms. So you are more than welcome to tweet at us at @SmartPLN tag hashtag #SmartChampion, and that way we can see the amazing ideas and things that you're doing in your classroom. And we also have some resources that we will leave with you, and Teddy will be putting those in the chat if she hasn't already. Some resources for you to go back to the Smart Learning Suite Teacher's Guide. There's also some resources here to review how to use the handout and workspace, and also a quick video on using that lesson pacing. As
Sarah,
I said,
we had a question come up if you'd like to answer for all of us.
Yeah.
So someone wants to know, are we going to see traditional Smart Notebook functionality in Smart Learning Suite Online? Like, for example, starting a new blank page as we do a notebook where we can add some things into it? Because currently, as you know, we can't.
Right. So there are a lot of great updates coming to Smart Learning Suite Online. And so, for example, very recently now, if you bring a notebook file into Smart Learning Suite Online, you can start to edit. So there's definitely some awesome things coming down the pipeline. So keep checking in with us.
Thank you, Sarah. And thank you so much for attending.